So while the previous chapter was completely highlighting on the probability and the basic calculations relating probability, it is expected that there is some understanding on statistics as well. And when we talk about statistics, again it is with respect to probability itself. As far as FRM statistics is concerned, it's more and more associated with the probability itself. Let's say I'm giving a few numbers like this. See, getting a return. Let's say uh, we are talking about tossing a or throwing a dice. We know that the outcomes are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? Then we also know that the probabilities of occurrence of each of these things is 1 by 6 separately. Right? The probability of getting a 1 when I throw a dice, probability of getting a 2, and so on. Now I want to find out what is the average value. What is the average value that I can get? So getting a 1, there is a 1.6. Probably you look at it like this, convert it into money. There is a 1 by 6 chance that I will get 1 rupee. Probably the same, I converted it into a money problem. There is a 1 by 6 probability that I will get 1 rupee. There is just like your lottery problem. There is a 1/6 chance that you will get 2 rupees and so on. If that's the case, my question is, what is the average amount you can get? Right? So that is the statistics, because statistics typically deals with the attributes of your data. The calculation, the attributes relating to your data. So I want to find out key things like average, which is nothing but the mean. Mean is the word generally used in case of average. So whereas when we use the same mean in case of probability, we even call it as the expected value. Expected value is nothing but average. Average is nothing but mean. So all these three things are interlinked. Expected value is primarily because we are talking of a chance of occurring. It's not reality. The 3.5 or 3, which is the average, is not a reality. I can get 1, I can get 2, I can get 3, I can get 6. But average is, let's say, 3.5. But it does not, so there is a chance that I will get 1 also, there is a chance I will get 6 rupees also. But on an average, I am getting 3.5. So that is why we call it as an expected value or even an average. So these kind of probability distributions, whatever we have, we generally end up computing the mean of that distribution, mean of that data, then variance and standard deviation, which simply talk about, now if the average is 3.5, but the actual values are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there is some deviation from the average. Right? On an average, what is the amount of deviation from the average? Probably if I say 1, it is deviating by 2.5 units. I mean there is a deviation of 2.5, because when I say average value is 3.5 rupees, but if I get 1, there is a deviation of around 2.5 rupees. But if I get 2, there is a deviation of around 1.5 rupee. Now I have to define how much is the average deviation, because that is what is a measure of risk. Now if I say on an average, Infosys gives me 10% return, right? But if it gives 10% every year, then there is no deviation. Everything is assured. Next year also I can predict very confidently that it will give 10% return, right? But the average is 10. In 1 year it was 2, 1 year it was 20, 1 year it was 7, 1 year it was 27. Still the average is 10 only. Right? When it was, or 1 year loss of 5, but still the average can come out to 10, right? Minus 5 plus 4 plus 20 plus 27, something if I do, it may still come out to average of 10. Now there can I assure that it will give me 10%? Right? There are two scenarios. The four numbers are like this: 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%. So the average is still 10%. Whereas on the other side, minus 5%, 5%, 15%, 25%. The average is still 10% only. You take the average of these four, this is also 10%. But in the first one, there is a consistency. So if I am predicting based on that historical values, my accuracy of prediction will go up. Whereas in the second case, if I have to predict, average is still 10 in both the cases, but my prediction levels will go down. My prediction accuracy will go down in the second case compared to the first case. Right? So that is what we call as variance. There is a fluctuation in the data very heavily. And that fluctuation is what is a measure of risk. The fluctuation is what is a measure of risk for us. Right? So whenever we are using the word risk, we define either variance or standard deviation. Both are one and the same. Variance is just the square of the standard deviation. So the moment I know the variance, I can compute standard deviation or vice versa. Now let me take up one example to solve all this numerical. So from an exam standpoint, you will get a clarity on how do I do these calculations. See, now forget about the covariance correlation. Let's say I have 4 different scenarios in the economy. Probably I can call it as good, okay, bad, worst. The economy is good, the economy is okay, the economy is bad, the economy is worst. We have considered these kind of things even in our probability chapter also. Now what I am saying is the probability of the economy being good is 15%. So there is a 15% chance that the next year is going to be a good year. There is a 20% chance that the next year is going to be an okay year, 25% that it is bad, and 40% that it will be worst. Now, in case the economy is good, the company A will give me 18% profit. If it is okay, it will give me 17%. If it is bad, it gives 11%. And if it is worst, it gives 7%. Same thing with B. Now here, I want to find out what is the average return of company A. Expected return, because the expectation is, it gives 18% in some cases, it gives 17% in some cases, it gives 11 in some, it gives 7 in some. I want to find out what is the average. Here I cannot simply take the average of these 4 numbers, because each of them have a different probability of occurrence. See, for 18 is possible in 15% of the years. 17 is possible in 20% of the years. 7 is possible in 40% of the years. So if I have to find out the average return of A, I'll look at it as the weighted average. So 15% or probably 15% is 0.15 into 0.18 plus 0.2 into 0.17 plus 0.25 into 0.11 plus 0.4 into 0.07. This is what is my calculation for finding out the average return of A. So let me find that out. So one numerical, if we do, all kinds of calculations can be comfortable here. So if at all a probability is given, as well as different returns are given, and he is asking me for an expected return, all I am doing is, so there is a chance of 15%, there is a chance of 20, there is a chance of 25 and 40. These are the four states of the economy. And it said here it is 18%, here it is 17%, here it is 11%, and here it is 7%. Now when I am doing a weighted average, it is nothing but this 15% multiplied by 18% plus 20% multiplied by 17% plus 25% multiplied by the corresponding 11% plus 40% multiplied by 7%. So this is telling me that the average return which this company A is going to give is 11.65%. But in reality it could be 18, it could be 7 also. Average is 11.65. Now the same logic if I have to apply to the company B. Right? The company B, what it is giving? 19, 18, 10 and 9. Okay, so let me write it down here. 19%, 18%, 10% and a 9%. Now in this case if I want average, B's average is nothing but the probability multiplied by corresponding return plus probability multiplied by corresponding return plus probability multiplied by corresponding return plus probability multiplied by corresponding return. So overall it is saying it is giving 12.55%. So on an average, so how will I look at this? How will I interpret this? On an average, B gives more returns than A. Here I have not looked at the volatility of the returns or how much they are fluctuating. Right? One aspect of any investment is return. Return is a simple average, weighted average. What is the probability of this occurrence multiplied by what is the value? Right? That is what is coming out to 11.65, 12.55, and we are saying on an average B is giving more return than A, probably by around 0.9%. Now the next question, so the question could simply ask what is the expected return? First question. Then there could also be a scenario asking for the variance. Variance both of A as well as B. The way we find out the variance is from each of the values. From each, let's say if I want to find out for A, take A's value, each of the values of A minus the average. So value minus average square. Similarly, everyone value minus average square plus value minus average square plus value minus average square. Here the only difference is after you compute value minus average square for each one of them, you multiply this by its corresponding probability. So for this one, you multiply it with 0.15% or 15%. So this into this. Similarly here, this corresponding probability into this. Similarly here, this corresponding probability into this. and here and here this corresponding probability into this. So a simple calculation is each value, subtract the average, square it, multiply it with its corresponding probability. After that, add all of them. That is what will give me the variance of A. Variance is nothing but a measure of riskiness, how much it is fluctuating. So if the variance is high, I will say that though the average is 11.65, there is a very high fluctuation in the data. So that fluctuation is a measure of risk, because risk is about uncertainty. If it gives 10% or 11.65 in all the 4 years, then also average is 11.65, but assurance is more. Right, because there is a good chance I will get 11.65 only. There is no fluctuation. But here there has been a fluctuation from 18 to 7. There is a huge fluctuation, right? So that amount of fluctuation is measured through your variance and standard deviation. So here it is saying the variance is around 0.2%. Right? This is what is coming out as my variance. Then in this case, the same logic if I am applying, okay, so value minus the average square, and you can multiply it. This time I will directly use multiply it with its corresponding probability, plus value minus the average square multiplied by its corresponding probability, plus value minus the average square multiplied by its corresponding probability, plus value minus the average square multiplied by its corresponding probability. So this is saying the average, so the variance in this case is 0.18, whereas in the first case is 0.20. So because the variance is higher in the first case, if I am saying, if I have to say which one is more volatile, I'll say portfolio A or company A is more volatile compared to B. Which one is giving more return? B is giving more return. Which one is more risky? A is more risky. Right? Whichever is having high variance, we call it as high risky. Whichever is having a low variance, we treat it as less risky. Now, standard deviation is just a square root of the variance, because variance we have already done it as a square. Probably it's a second level value, second degree value. But average is a first degree value. Right? Mean or average is a first degree value. So if at all I have to do comparison with, if I have to give some kind of ranges, okay, this value will lie, 11.65 is the average. So if I have to say, yeah, it lies between 12 and 14, or it lies between 10 and 15, I have to bring that variance also into the first degree value. And the bringing the variance into first degree is nothing but the standard deviation. So because it's already a squared value variance, I am simply taking the square root. Square root of the variance value is nothing but the standard deviation. So it is saying the standard deviation is 0.045, which is nothing but 4.5%. So what it is saying is, on an average, the way I define the standard deviation is, on an average, this particular company, the deviation is around 4.5%. The fluctuation is around 4.5%. Deviation from the average. Right? Because this is deviating by almost 6 point something. This is deviating by 5 point something. This is deviating by 0.65. This is deviating almost by 4.65. So what I am trying to find out is, on an average, what is the kind of a deviation, right? This is what is being given by my standard deviation here. The same logic I can put for B, taking the square root of the variance. This is giving that it is on an average varying by 4.34%. So the fluctuation is slightly lesser in B compared to A. So from a finance or from a risk management standpoint, my statement is B is less riskier compared to A. Right? So the return is measured. Return will talk about profitability. Risk will talk about the risk. I mean, the standard deviation will talk about the risk associated. Now, as investors, we should simply understand, higher the risk we are taking, higher should be our return. So in this case, if I simply say, where do I invest between A and B? My obvious choice will go with B. Because one side it is having lesser risk, higher return. Right? Logical wise, the risk, as the risk is increasing, I should get more return. Then I am ready to take that extra risk. See, anyone who is taking a regular risk is nothing but uncertainty. Right? Anyone who is willing to take more risk, he is looking at more expected return. He is expecting more return. Then only he takes a risk. Right? In this case, what is happening? Risk is lesser for B, or risk is more for A, but expected return wise it is lesser than B. So obviously A cannot be an investment at all. That is how people look at shortlisting of the investments. Out of A and B available, which one I should go for or which one I should go away, can be interpreted through this concept of both risk as well as return. Risk is measured through standard deviation and variance. Return is measured through your mean or average. Right? Now, one more concept in this case is, especially when I am taking two or more securities together. Right? If I have to just invest in A or B, one of the two, then this funda is clear. Right? If I have to take a decision with respect to investing either in A or in B. But the whole finance world bases on a concept called portfolio, which is nothing but don't put all your eggs in one basket. So probably, is there any way I can combine A and B? Probably 60% of my money in A, 40% in B, or 80% in A, 20% in B. Then that is what we call as a portfolio. Investing in two or more securities, not just in one. Right? Because in one, obviously, if I gain, I will gain. If I lose, I will lose kind. Right? But if I am creating one or more, and as the risk managers, our intention is never to make a profit extraordinarily. Profit consistently. So the simplified way a risk manager has to look at is, how do I make profit? Not extraordinarily. Because if I make an extraordinary profit, there is an extraordinary risk involved in it. When I gain, I will gain, but when I lose, I will lose. Risk management is not targeting that. When I lose, I will lose. Right? When I gain, fine. But when I lose means there is no risk. I mean, you are not able to handle the risk. So bringing about consistency is what risk managers typically look at. So which means the main intention in a risk management exercise is reduce the standard deviation. How do I reduce the standard deviation? Right? So one such measure people talk of is portfolio will reduce your standard deviation.